What the f*** happened to Brendan Fraser? It feels like just yesterday when Brendan Fraser was at the top of the world. He was starring in action blockbusters, wacky comedies, kids movies, and even the occasional drama. He was perfect at playing the roles of the lovable action hero or the happy-go-lucky fish out of water. And he was a pretty good sad, quiet guy. And not a bad squirrel if you ask me. The dude can do it all. This guy meant a lot to a lot of people. I mean, I even have his action figure sitting right here as I edit. In the 90s and the 2000s, this superstar's goofy yet handsome face was everywhere. But then, suddenly, he vanished. Without warning, his star had fallen and it was like his career just crashed right into a tree. So what the fuck happened to Brendan Fraser? WTF? Young Brendan had a quick rise to stardom with hit films like Encino Man, where he played an unfrozen caveman in high school, and the gritty drama School Ties. He received much praise for these roles and showed off his range as an actor. He could be goofy, he could be serious, and he's got a fresh new face. Look out, Hollywood. Brendan is coming. Brendan was even nominated by the Chicago Film Critics Association for the Most Promising Actor of 1993. His career took off as he starred alongside Joe Pesci in the film With Honors.
And that will be the beginning of a brilliant career.
And that was followed by the rock and roll comedy with Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi, Airheads, where they play like the coolest band ever. And there was the movie The Scout, everybody liked him in that. And the film Still Breathing, which showed that he could still do the dramatic stuff. But he really became a household name with the film George of the Jungle. It was a live-action comedy based on the classic animation. And the film was a hit. It seemed like Hollywood had their eyes on this living cartoon of a man. While he showed the world that he could be the biggest goofball in the jungle, he also held on to his dramatic side with the Oscar-winning Gods and Monsters. Won the Oscar for Adapted Screenplay, so there you go. Oscars mean movies are good, right? Right? Then Brendan unleashed The Mummy. He channeled his inner action hero and almost got himself killed via a hanging accident, but it was probably worth it because The Mummy was a massive summer blockbuster. Suddenly, Brendan was on top of that A-list. But after researching the career of Brendan Fraser, I have a theory. With every massive hit he has, he accompanies it with a flop. Yes, The Mummy did terrific, but he had 2 bombs that year. Blast from the Past, which I actually really enjoy. It was another fish out of water movie, but it seems like I'm the only one who likes that movie because it was not a hit. And the film Dudley Do-Right, which lost $60 million. That's right, $60 million was lost. Brendan was trying to rekindle that George of the Jungle cartoon live-action magic, but it just didn't work. And I blame Canada.
Brendan Fraser.
Bedazzled was successful, though. Brendan got to really have fun and play a variety of characters. He could show the world that he was the best at everything. But he followed that up with another flop, Monkey Bone, which lost millions and millions of dollars. But right after that was the sequel to The Mummy Returns, and it did even better than the first. So like I said, a hit and a miss, a hit and a miss, a hit and a miss. He also starred alongside Michael Caine in The Quiet American. Michael Caine was nominated for an Oscar, and Brendan was standing next to him, so that's something. And like any great man, Brendan Fraser loves cartoons. So teaming up with the Looney Tunes was an obvious choice, but the Looney Tunes back-in-action movie didn't do very well at the box office. It was a bizarre meta role where Brendan plays the stuntman of Brendan. That's right, Brendan Fraser played Brendan Fraser's stuntman in Looney Tunes, back in action. Try to wrap your mind around that. I know it's hard, but you can do it. There's even a scene where Brendan's character punches the real Brendan in the face. Looking back, Fraser seems to think that subconsciously he wanted to punch himself in the face. Because at that time, he thought he deserved a big punch in the face. You see, this is where the story kind of starts to get sad. Brendan Fraser didn't like himself. He wasn't happy. Behind that big goofy smile was some pain. He was part of the large ensemble cast for Crash, which won the Oscar, but let's be honest, it's not the best picture ever, and Brendan Fraser isn't exactly the most memorable part of that movie. It's not his fault. By 2006, Fraser was focusing on smaller indie films like Journey to the End of the Night, The Last Time, and The Air I Breathe, all of which went unpraised and unnoticed. But after his stretch of disappointing smaller films came a very successful larger film, Journey to the Center of the Earth. It was a surprise hit, and could be called the first of many comebacks in Brendan's career. Journey to the Center of the Earth was such a huge hit that the studio wanted to make a sequel ASAP. But Brendan wanted to wait for the original director to finish his Yogi Bear movie before starting, because he's a good and loyal friend. But the studio did not give a fuck, and they replaced him with the Scorpion King, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. To add insult to injury, or injury to insult, the film was very successful without Brendan Fraser.
That's emasculating.
But Brendan couldn't have been doing that bad, because at the time he was being considered to don the cape of Superman. But of course he did not become the Man of Steel, which was a real blow to his confidence, and he started to back away from Hollywood, feeling that he wasn't good enough. But Brendan can always count on the Mummy to raise his career from the dead, and he soon found himself on the set of Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. The film had been planned for a while, but many production delays caused audiences to wait until a good 7 years to get a third installment to the Mummy franchise. And by that time, the world was kind of all mummied out. And let's be clear here, the Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor wasn't exactly a flop, but it definitely wasn't a hit. And it definitely did not put Brendan back on top. And neither did Inkheart, which soon followed and was also not a hit. It was a flop. It bombed. Sorry.
You're going back in that book!
Inkheart.
But his career was not the only thing falling apart. So was his personal life, and so was his health. Doing a lot of his own stunt work on the Mummy movies caused his body to drastically decline. He said he was being held together by just tape and ice. The strain on his body was incredibly destructive. And Brendan admitted to being careless about his physical health when it came to doing stunt work. He wanted to show everyone that he could take on anything and ask for more. But over the years, this resulted in a lot of pain and broken body parts. His injuries required many surgeries. On his back, his knees, and his vocal cords. He was in and out of hospitals for almost 7 years, in addition to another injury he sustained while cleaning up debris from Hurricane Sandy. The career of a movie star can be a very difficult thing. You can have your ups and your downs, but those troubles are nothing compared to personal hardships, which Brendan did experience. His marriage of 10 years and 3 kids ended in divorce. It was ugly and very public. Lots of drama involving alimony and child support. You know how it goes. And because of his injuries, Brendan claimed that he could not work and was making $0, so he could not make those payments. Brendan was broke. Broke in the bank, broke in the body, and broke in the heart. He kinda just faded away from the spotlight and went missing in action for almost a decade. He recently opened up to GQ magazine about his disappearance from the silver screen. He told them that he was going through some stuff that molds and shapes you in ways that you're not ready until you go through them. So Brendan was going through some stuff. He basically just slowed down a bit and focused on being a dad. The guy has 3 kids and one is on the autism spectrum, so he's got his hands full. But here's where the story of Brendan takes a darker turn. There was another reason for Fraser to step away from the glitz and glamour of Tinseltown. The guy got MeToo'd. Like he was the victim. After years of staying quiet, Brendan shared his story. He was inspired by the female friends he had in the industry who were abused by powerful men. In 2003, Brendan claims that he fell victim to an unwanted groping by the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the organization behind the Golden Globes. Although this man claims that it was just a harmless pinch on the butt, Brendan states that it was much, much more than that. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go into detail about that. I'm not in the mood. And actually, I thought putting together this Brendan Fraser video was gonna be kind of fun, but then I came across this interview. Entertainment Tonight asked Brendan to comment on the hashtag MeToo movement, and he appears to be very emotional and distressed.
I'm hopeful that some good can come of this. There's a notion that in the world there's poison, and I'm no chemist, but I do know that that poison can be useful towards making medicine.
The groping incident caused Fraser to feel miserable and even depressed. He took a step back from the film industry, and the poor guy even blamed himself. Fraser kept quiet about the groping, but his reps demanded a written apology. After this, Brendan was rarely invited to the Golden Globes, which led him to believe that he was being blacklisted. In hindsight, maybe he should have stayed away from the Golden Globes because Well, we'll get to that later. By 2010, Brendan was barely hanging on. Extraordinary Measures cost $30 million to make and only brought back 12. And a few months later came Furry Vengeance, and it also lost millions and millions of dollars and was panned by the critics. It doesn't get much worse than Furry Vengeance.
Oh my God! Look, this isn't what you think. You gotta.
And like Thanos has the snap, Brendan has the clap. Maybe there's a better way to say that, but this hella awkward applause caused what was left of Brendan's career to instantly vanish. His street cred of coolness was suddenly gone. Other celebrities fall from grace because of violent crimes or dark scandals, but not Brendan. He was finished off by simply being a dork. Very rarely can you trace the end of a celebrity's career to an exact moment. Well, right here, right when his hand touched the other hand, boom, right there, that was the end of Brendan Fraser. Or so we thought. Since Brendan was in a cinematic slump, he did what all former big screen greats do. They go to television. Not that there's anything wrong with television. Television is great. I like television. With the History Channel's Texas Rising and Showtime's The Affair, it seemed like Brendan had found a comfortable place as a strong supporting character in acclaimed TV series. Fraser had gotten some really good buzz for his role as a prison guard with a dark secret in The Affair. This was the beginning of one of many comebacks. But once again, Brendan would ruin whatever momentum he had by being kind of awkward and dorky and sad. While promoting this show, he gave an infamous interview where he openly discussed his career troubles and the current state of Hollywood. He seemed uncomfortable and drained of his once youthful energy. Was he just getting older? I mean, it happens to us all. Or was something else going on with our beloved Brendan? Yet again, much fun was made at his expense. Sad Brendan Fraser was trending everywhere. It seemed like everyone on the World Wide Web LOL'd at Brendan's awkwardness. Ha ha ha, look at that loser. Has been, he's gaining weight. He's losing hair. He seems dead inside. Ha 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 ha. The internet can be a cruel and nasty place. It can also be kind of hilarious. But soon we realized that it wasn't that hilarious after all. And the story behind sad Brendan Fraser was sad. His mother had passed away a few days before doing this interview. And suddenly, laughing at Brendan Fraser wasn't that fun anymore. And even though he has hit a few slumps, Fraser fans remain loyal. They are still very devoted to their beloved leading man. And he carries a cult-like following. And I think I'm a member. People love him. A petition was even made and sent to major networks to help revive his career. It was started on change.org, which, if you want to change things, that's the .org you go to. The Brendan petition reads, Fraser has been in multiple interviews recently and has appeared to be very down and out. And us loyal fans feel like we are obligated to help him out in any way possible. Please help us get Fraser back on his feet. We miss him. The world had a Brendan-sized hole in its heart. And that hole got much bigger after Tom Cruise remade the Mummy movie, and it wasn't very good, and everybody realized how much we needed Brendan Fraser. That 1999 nostalgia was hitting us right in the face. But after a very long career which resembles that of a roller coaster, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, but I think now he is on one of his best ups. Like a cinematic caveman, his career has been unfrozen yet again with Doom Patrol. That's right, Doom Patrol. Everybody loves Doom Patrol. This may be his biggest comeback to date. Fraser has officially found his place in this new world of superhero cinematic universes, and he fits perfectly. Brendan brings Robot Man to life in only a way that Brendan could. And I hear trust is good too. Trust. And don't you worry about Brendan, he seems to be just fine with where he is in his career right now. He even went on Sway and said this.
And they think I'm a big Waldo, which works out fine. Until I came out with Doom Patrol, now I'm cool again.
You're cool again. There you go, Brendan Fraser. Look at that!
So let the life and times of Brendan Fraser be a lesson to you. Hollywood can make you a legend, but it can also chew you up and spit you out and cut out your organs and pull your brain through your nose and throw you in a sarcophagus and divorce you and hashtag MeToo you and then replace you with The Rock at any moment. The story of Brendan Fraser can be a sad one, but it's also a journey full of laughs, explosions, and a few animated creatures. He's a symbol of hope, that anybody can come back from anything and be super. And right now, his career can go anywhere from here. He has proven himself to be a worthy actor. He just needs to pick the right roles. I believe in Brendan Fraser, and I know that in the near future we will be seeing far more roles like Robot Man, and far less roles like, well, like this. And that's what the f*** happened to Brendan Fraser.
I reached a point where I wanted to get off the merry-go-round, and I wanted to stop the music and have kids and a family and that kind of thing. And so it kind of worked out that I reprioritized things for me. I'm doing just fine. And I feel like it's a new day, so I feel good about that. Thanks for asking.
Brendan Fraser, ladies and gentlemen, Doom Patrol.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
1 second, you are the subject of the pilot episode of What the F*** Happened to This Celebrity, and the next, you are an Academy Award-winning actor. But to truly understand what the f*** happened, we must begin at the beginning, and the beginning began when this show was born in 2019, when we posted our very first episode. And of course, we had to start out with a bang, focusing on a celebrity that seemed to be universally loved, but had fallen out of the limelight in recent years. And there was no one more perfect than Brendan Fraser.
Oh, I've seen this one. It's good.
But when launching into the research for Fraser, I wasn't exactly expecting the darkness and the struggles in his personal life. So by the end of the video, I wanted nothing more than for Fraser to have a comeback because he frickin' deserved it so much. So let's ask that age-old question yet again. What the f*** happened to Brendan Fraser? You know, since the last time we did What the F*** Happened to Brendan Fraser. This is What the F*** Happened to Brendan Fraser Part 2. The sequel. The What the F*** Returns. Tomb of the Dragon What the F***er. When we last left off, Brendan Fraser was just bouncing back from a life out of the spotlight. He was featured in some critically acclaimed TV shows like The Affair, Condor, Trust, and Doom Patrol, being the best reviewed of the bunch, as it ran for 4 seasons on HBO Max. But it would seem that Brendan Fraser's career comeback was relegated to the small screen, in projects that showcased his immersed talent, but never truly entered the cultural zeitgeist. On the big screen, Brendan Fraser's name was being mentioned a lot. Not for a movie that he was in, but for a movie that had absolutely nothing to do with him. In 2017, Universal decided they wanted to create a shared cinematic universe based on the classic Universal monster films. Sounds amazing in theory, right? The first film in this proposed dark universe was a new version of The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, not Brendan Fraser. And yeah, in theory, on paper, this should have been a surefire hit. But when people saw the film, they all agreed that this mummy should have stayed in its tomb. And yeah, everybody quickly realized that the Mummy movies only worked because Brendan Fraser. The mega failure of this Mummy made everybody miss Brendan so much. They missed his presence on the screen. And we all realized that maybe, perhaps, we kinda took this guy for granted. It would seem like the success of Doom Patrol and the failure of a Brendan-less Mummy film helped filmmakers and studios see the potential in casting Brendan in more than just direct-to-video schlock, like The Poison Rose in 2019. One of those directors who saw potential in him was none other than Academy Award-winning director Steven Soderbergh, who would cast Brendan in his HBO Max film No Sudden Move in 2021. This film would receive overwhelmingly positive reviews, with many singling out Brendan's performance. And yeah, these good reviews, this praise, it would be one more notch, one more step towards the inevitable return of Brendan Fraser.
You fucking heard me? This whole fucking thing is offensive. Let's go.
He just needed to be in like a super big superhero movie, right? Like Batgirl. By October 2021, Brendan Fraser would be cast as the big bad guy for Warner Brothers' proposed direct-to-streaming film Batgirl that would eventually be converted into a full-blown $70 million budgeted big-screen tentpole film that was guaranteed to be a blockbuster, right? This Batgirl movie was something to be excited about. Not only would it be the return of Michael Keaton in his iconic Batman role before The Flash, but this would also bring Brendan Fraser back to the big screen in a super blockbuster action film. But then came August 2022, when the movie world was shocked when Warner Brothers announced that they had flat out canceled the release of this Batgirl film, which was nearly unheard of for basically a fully completed movie, especially one with a built-in audience already. But why was it canceled? Nobody really knows. Was it just a tax write-off? Maybe. Were test reviews so bad that they were like, hey, we just need to kill this thing and put it out of its misery? Was it too woke? Was it not woke enough? What the f*** is woke even mean now? But yeah, who knows? Batgirl was completely shut down, and so was the possible major comeback of Brendan Fraser. But he did not give up. Brendan Fraser would actually talk about the shock he felt when this film was canceled. He did it on the Howard Stern show, which is where you go to talk about things that people want to listen to. But yeah, so basically it would seem like this big screen Brendan-assance would have to wait.
I relished this part. It was great fun. I really
And you
enjoyed
shot the whole movie and they never put out Batgirl.
Correct.
Do you think it'll ever be seen? Have you seen the actual? Have you seen the film?
No, I've not.
You've not.
Let's quickly go back to the year 2012, when poor Brendan Fraser seemed to be caught in a never-ending string of duds. But little did he know that somewhere across the country, on a small theater stage, something was happening that would ultimately change his life. A new play called The Whale was taking off on off-Broadway stages. And of the many people who went to see this award-winning play was Requiem for a Dream filmmaker Darren Aronofsky, who desperately wanted to bring this big story to the big screen. But unfortunately, due to never being able to figure out who could play the main role, saw those dreams remain on the back burner as he went on to make such films as Noah and Mother instead. But the longing to bring this intimate story to the big screen never left this filmmaker, Mr. Darren. And over the years, he tried to imagine what actor could convincingly play the 600-pound lead character, who has to do like a lot of emotional stuff like cry all the time, which is hard, I guess. Aronofsky then saw the trailer for a 2006 Brazilian film called Journey to the End of the Night, which featured Brendan Fraser and had nothing to do with Journey to the Center of the Earth. In this movie, Brendan plays a far different type of role than we've ever seen before. He's a brothel-owning, compulsive gambler who's addicted to cocaine. Oh my, he's so bad. Darren Aronofsky says that he hadn't seen many of Brendan Fraser's films, with the exception of The Mummy, of course. But watching that trailer on YouTube reminded him of the movie star talent that Brendan Fraser possessed. And in that moment, he knew that he had found his leading man. And maybe he also watched What the F Happened to Brendan Fraser Part 1, maybe, and was inspired by me. But yeah, who cares which YouTube video inspired Darren Aronofsky to cast Brendan Fraser in The Whale? Because thank God he did, because there was a rumor that at one point James Corden was going to star. Filming for The Whale began on March 8th, 2021, and ran for a month in New York. During that time, Brendan Fraser had been fitted with his prosthetic suit that would eat up 4 hours every day to put on and weighed nearly 300 pounds. Brendan Fraser would do extensive research for the role, making sure that everything was authentic, even consulting with the Obesity Action Coalition and dance instructors to fully understand how a man of that physical condition would move. It was fat, yo. PH. Fat is what I mean. The film The Whale would premiere at the 79th Annual Venice International Film Festival in September of 2022. And the video that came the next day was the start of Brendan Fraser's climb to the top of the mountain of the movie industry. In this video, the always lovable Brendan Fraser stands up as the audience gives the film, and mostly him, a 6-minute standing ovation. 6 minutes, y'all. This was the dramatic performance that everyone knew Brendan Fraser had in him, ever since we first saw him in School Ties back in 1992, and in Gods and Monsters in 1998. He's not a stranger to drama, y'all. And what's so amazing about this Whale comeback is that this wasn't the resurrection of somebody who fell out of the public eye for bad behavior or naughty backstage shenanigans. This was the resurrection of a performer who had never had a single bad word uttered about him. Just like a nice guy. And he gave the frickin' performance of a lifetime. The audience of the Venice Film Festival let him know how happy they were to have him back in the limelight.
I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life.
The Whale would open December 2022 and would have the best limited opening of a movie in 2022, where it sold out all 6 screens that it was playing at, and it would go on to make a very healthy $53.4 million based off of just a $3 million budget. From there came award season, and it was one of the most memorable award seasons of recent memory. Brendan would rack up over 61 nominations in various award show things, resulting in 26 wins. But one of those award show things that did not have Brendan Fraser was the Golden Globes. That's right, unfortunately, one of the nasty, horrible reasons that Brendan Fraser stepped away from acting is because he was allegedly, we have to say allegedly, inappropriately touched by, the guy who ran the Golden Globes. Brendan Fraser was #MeToo'd. He was the victim. And unfortunately, because this Golden Globe guy had so much power, Brendan Fraser was blacklisted. So now he was having this award season comeback, and the Golden Globes were there, and they're like, "Are you gonna attend?" And Brendan Fraser was like, "No, fuck you." And Brendan Fraser boycotted those motherfucking Golden Globes. And because of this, Colin Farrell won, and good for him. But yeah, you know.
You're the best thing I have ever done.
But then came the Academy Awards, and Brendan Fraser would win Best Actor. That's right, Brendan Fraser is now an Oscar winner. It feels so nice to say that. Let's say it again. Brendan Fraser is now an Oscar winner. Every time you talk about Brendan Fraser, you can say Academy Award winner Brendan Fraser, and you would be correct. Correctamundo. And just to top it all off, a nice little Oscar cherry, his short round buddy from Encino Man, Ke Huy Quan, would be there right next to him winning Best Supporting Actor for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And you know what? Brendan Fraser should win an Oscar for his amazing Oscar speech. He gave an incredibly heartfelt and most sincere acceptance. It made me kind of almost want to watch the Oscars next year. All of us Brendan heads, Fraser faces, all over the world, we were celebrating. We were so happy that Brendan was able to get his hands on that unholy golden idol, which was much deserved.
Thank you again, each one and all. I'm so grateful to you. Good night.
Everybody was reaching out to Brendan, telling him how happy they were that he was back. The world and the movie industry had fallen in love again with Brendan. He's so lovable, so dorky, and cool at the same time. But you can just tell that he's a nice guy, and you know, I guess being nice gets you places in life eventually. And yeah, we actually went back to the previous What the F Happened to Brendan Fraser video, part 1, which was posted so many years ago. We went back and looked through the comments, and yeah, even though those YouTube commenters can be kind of vicious sometimes, there wasn't one single negative comment about Brendan Fraser. All the negative comments were about me, but not any about Brendan. Everybody loved him. It was nothing but that love and love and love. It seemed like everybody had respect for this performer, and that everybody missed him. Missed seeing his big goofy face on the screen. The really good news is that this Brendan-assance, well, it's just beginning, as Brendan Fraser has a prominent role in Martin Scorsese's upcoming film, Killers of the Flower Moon, alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. That's right, let me say that again. Brendan Fraser is going to be in a Martin Scorsese movie alongside Leo and Bobby. He's also got another movie planned called Brothers, which seems like a twins kind of movie, with Peter Dinklage and Josh Brolin.
You're one of those actors, you've been working constantly, and yet this is being described as your Brenaissance, because people like words like that.
But I'm sure we'll go into more details with those flicks in part 3 in a few years. Because Brendan Fraser is showing absolutely no sign of slowing down. He's swinging, and he's not hitting any trees anymore. So that means we will always be asking what the f happened to Brendan Fraser, because he's a happening guy, I guess. With that new Oscar on his shelf, and the world at large rooting for him, it seems like there's nothing Brendan Fraser can't do. And perhaps we may finally get to see Brendan return to the world of The Mummy, or even an Encino Man sequel. I mean, cavemen are still funny, right? Let's get that stuff greenlit. Or even George of the Jungle 2 Jungle. Or even The Whale 2, where we get to follow him in heaven. Spoiler alert, he goes to heaven at the end. So yeah, nobody should give a f*** about what the f*** happened to Brendan Fraser, because Brendan Fraser, he's back, and he's doing just fine. And he didn't even need Batgirl to save him.
Believe me, if I can do it, you can too. Good things will happen.